everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Han and I'm a UX manager here in Toronto. In today's video, I want to talk to you about the good, the bad, the ugly, the greats of being a UX manager and why you should consider it or maybe not. All right, let's just get right into it. The good. So I've been a UX manager for about 6 months now. My official title is UX lead, which essentially means that I'm in a player coach position. That means that I am not just purely management. I might be helping out on actual design execution depending on the projects. All's to say, I am in much more of I would say it's like a 70-30 split. I've opened up Figma quite a few times. I still open up Figma every day just to look at designs and be able to give feedback, but I'm not churning out designs the same way that I was as a senior designer. So I think the biggest positive upside of my change into a senior IC into the management track is actually being able to lead a team. I've been doing a lot of mentorship even as a senior designer and throughout my career, and I feel like it was the most aligned to who I am and what my skills and strengths are. I love being around people, I love coaching people and supporting them, as well as just helping them unleash their own potential. And so I found that to be the most rewarding aspect of my job right now, is to be able to help my team and lead them. So I actually came across this quote recently that really resonated with my style of leadership, and that's, good leaders have vision and inspire others to help them turn vision into reality. Great leaders create more leaders, not followers. Great leaders have vision, share vision, and inspire others to create their own. And I think that rings super true in my own career. Is I don't look for people who are just going to be like, yes, Han, let me do that, Han. I want people to think for themselves. And so I always encourage my team to think of their own ideas while still being alongside them to support them in that or help them see alternative realities. Another great thing about this role that I'm in is the sphere of influence is a lot bigger. So as a senior IC, you would be mostly focusing on the team, so your scrum team or your squad. As a senior IC, I found myself leading design at the squad level with a little bit more influencing design within the wider, I think, design team, and then a little bit to the wider company. However, as a manager, it's to lead that. So basically set the vision of what you want that area to look like from a design standpoint, and then manage up, meaning relaying that information to my directors, VPs, etc. But then also being able to translate that into actual executable tasks for my design team. So again, my sphere of influence is no longer just bound to a team. It is now a little bit wider, where it's across the design community of practice, and then possibly up and down, up meaning VPs, higher ups, and then down meaning my specific team. One thing that I quite like about design management is being able to look at all of the different projects and kind of play this really cool matchmaking process with the designers on the teams, where their growth is, where their skills are, and trying to piece together, who is the best person to lead that specific project. Will they need my help? How much help will they need? And that's a really cool process, because then you can actually create those opportunities for growth for your team. In terms of a day-to-day difference, I have a day-to-day or like a day in my life video that I just made that I'm super proud of. So if you want to check that out, it kind of gives a glimpse of what a random day looked like. But in terms of like overall day-to-day, there's a lot more strategy meetings and like kind of like updates on different projects. I do context switch quite a bit, which I'll mention as a good thing, but also as a downfall of being a manager. So I'm constantly coming in and out of different projects just to see what's going on, what are the different statuses, what are the next steps, and what, from a design standpoint, are we responsible for or should we plan for? There's definitely a lot more planning at my level, so that means that I'm constantly thinking about how do I enrich my own team, then the kind of layer across, meaning at all of the design managers, and then also at the my higher ups, what are things that I can do to help push design influence in the wider community. I kind of have to ask myself, like, where do I see this area growing? Where do I see design being pushed in this area? And coming up with a plan and then socializing that plan and then executing on that plan. And then the last thing, which I think is still rings true as a senior designer to now, is no 2 days are the same. I think every single day is a little bit different, which is why I am gonna have so much fun with the day in the lives, or maybe a week in the lives glimpses, because again, every day is a little bit different. And I think as someone who craves just a little routine, but also a little bit of a different day-to-day. It's not the same task that you have to do. It really provides spontaneity as well as just variety in the things that you do, and it kind of keeps your brain a little sharp. Although again, it can get a little much when you're juggling so many different things for so many different projects. And so I would say that is something that you'd have to work on if that's not your forte. So all in all, the last 6 months have been pretty good. I think that I've come into a pretty good rhythm with, learning the organizational synchronicities, learning about my team, their own preferences, goals, growth opportunities, as well as getting feedback. I've gotten pretty good feedback. We just launched our 360s, which is the ability for peers as well as your direct reports to give you feedback on your performance. And I think it's been pretty positive. So I would say I've been really enjoying the last 6 months. And I would say there is challenges with every position. But for me, the challenges have been being a manager means you're dealing with people all the time. And you're directly responsible for people's growth, their general happiness at their job, as well as giving critical feedback. Now, dealing with people can be a lot, but it is an innate skill that you need as a designer. However, as a manager, you need to be able to communicate very effectively, succinctly, but also very directly. And so I think the challenge there is learning everybody's communication style is a little bit different. So what is the most effective way to talk to person B versus person A to get the same message across? And so we're all humans, some days we have good days, some days we have bad days. And so as a manager, I need to recognize that and provide the support that my team needs in those times. The second challenge that I would say is there is a lot more responsibility. Obviously, as a manager, you're compensated, higher because of the years of experience that you have and what you're dealing with. What you're dealing with is sometimes a lot of ambiguity. There are some times where you don't have an answer to something, or there's a process that you don't necessarily agree with that you kind of just have to implement because that's the company policy. And so having to navigate that and having to really pick and choose when I am like the raw manager versus like, here's the crap that we have to deal with. I'm sorry we have to deal with this, but we'll get through it together. And there is, I think, a fine line between toxic positivity as well as just like negativity. And where is that line on any given day, depending on what the news is or whatever it is that we have to get through, can be hard because everyone's looking to you for guidance and leadership. And sometimes you don't have the answers. So it's a matter of like, deciding that day, is this the best time to say, I don't have the answers, I'm so sorry, versus really try to push your leaders for an answer so that you can relay it back to your team. It's different every time and it doesn't get any easier. I think different situations make it harder. Now, speaking of responsibility, I think the third challenge is you are now responsible for building a great team, but there are times where you might need to do firing. And that is to say, in this current situation, this current climate that we're in, layoffs have been happening in tech. And I haven't had to do that yet, but that is hard to even think about because you're essentially cutting off someone's livelihood. And then lastly, I think the challenge that I am learning to conquer is context switching. I'm pretty good at that, and to almost a fault where I multitask too often and I feel like I need to find focus. But I think that has become a superpower for what I do because at any given time, there is a lot of context switching between different projects and knowing, okay, which designer is working on what, at what stage that project is in, what the different steps are, what the goals are, are da 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 da. And so I think context switching can be tough. There are some times where I can't attend all of the meetings, you know, because I'm just one person. So I trust them that they are able to, you know, provide updates or carry the meeting. And if they need my support to, you know, ping me whenever they need to be part of that meeting. But again, it is something that you're gonna have to do so often because you're not only looking at different projects, you're also thinking about admin stuff, you're also thinking about strategy, the future, and so there's a lot of bouncing back and forth between different timelines. All is to say, I think UX management or just people management in general is something that, you know, I love. And that's me. As a person who loves to be around people, I'm pretty extroverted and I just get a lot of value and I find a lot of intrinsic motivation to help people. If that is something that, you know, you feel is in your wheelhouse, I would say talk to a lot more UX managers to see what their days are like, because I think I'm in a very specific industry. I'm in fintech. So it can be different, especially the size of the companies. In smaller firms versus big companies, corporations, things are done differently. And so I would say if this is something that you're interested in, talk to a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds or ones that you find resonates best with your experience. And then also question why you want to be a UX manager or just a manager in general. Because now as UX is maturing as an industry, there are non-management roles that you can take in senior leadership, meaning you can grow as a designer without having to manage people. You can be, I think they're called, the labels are like staff or principal designer or associate staff, like. So I think staff and principal are the most common ones, but then there are also directors and leads that just push craft or push the system side of things without having anybody directly reporting into them. So that's all to say, I don't want anybody to feel like this is the only option for them to progress their career. This is what I chose and this is what resonates best with me and why I enjoy it. And so I encourage you to do the same soul searching thing and, you know, find what resonates best with your career path. Anyways, that is all from me. If you've enjoyed this video, let me know down below what the most surprising thing about being a UX manager, I guess, or that I mentioned was, if there are any. And if you have any topics that you'd like me to cover, please leave them down below. I read every comment because I just love interacting. I think what I'm really aiming for is a community on here. So that's all to say. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're interested in seeing what a day in my life looks like as a manager, please click on whatever the card pops up here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.